Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is a fabulous turnout. I'm so thrilled to see all the congratulations coming in. It's great to see this, and it really makes these online events feel warm and like launches, which, I miss our launches really badly, but this is really a wonderful alternative. My name is Noelle Allen. I'm the publisher of Woolsack and Wynn, and I'm just here to welcome you all and to set things up, and then I'm going to turn it over to our brilliant senior editor, Paul Vermeer, and all of our wonderful authors, because the publishers are kind of the boring people in the background, so you don't really want to hear me talk too much. So tonight we're going to have a wonderful evening of fiction and poetry with work from Michelle Berry, Adrienne de Leon, Marguerite Pigeon, and Daniel Tisdale. And of course, Paul Vermeer will be guiding us through the evening. One of the things I always do at the beginning of these is I have to thank our funders, of course, because really without the support of the Canada Council for the Arts, the Ontario Arts Council, the Department of Canadian Heritage, we would not be able to bring these fabulous books to you. And we are deeply grateful for their support and look forward to showing you what we can do with it. Now, the other thing I always like to do at the beginning of these is to start with a land acknowledgement. I know we are all over Canada, and we are in the traditional territories of many different nations, but Woolsack and Wynn is really lucky to be based in Hamilton and to have found a wonderful welcoming home in this city. So I will do a land acknowledgement for our area, and I'm sure everybody is thinking of their own place of residence. The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase, 1792, between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. Now, I'm going to turn this over to our senior editor, Paul Vermeer, who I'm sure many of you know, but just in case, let me take a moment to introduce him. Paul Vermeer is a poet, multimedia artist, creative writing professor, and literary editor. He is the author of several poetry collections, including The Reinvention of the Human Hand, a finalist for the 2011 Trillium Book Award, and most recently, Shared Universe, New and Selected Poems. He teaches in the Honors Bachelor of Creative Writing and Publishing program at Sheridan College, where he is also the editor-in-chief of the Ampersand Review of Writing and Publishing. As I said, he's our senior editor, and he is the heart and soul behind our imprint, Buckrider Books. Over to you, Paul.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I see that we have an excellent turnout for our virtual launch tonight, and I want to thank everyone for joining us as we launch our 4 Buckrider books for fall 2021. We have a great lineup of books that we're celebrating tonight, and all 4 of our authors are going to be here to read from their books and talk about their books, and I'm sure to tell you what it means to them that all of you are here to celebrate these books with us. And it's my pleasure to introduce these 4 authors to you. And we're going to start with Marguerite Pigeon, author of The Endless Garment, and I've long admired Marguerite's writing for her poetry and her fiction in books like Inventory and Open Pit and Some Extremely Boring Drives, which is a great title and an absolutely not a boring book. But The Endless Garment is the first book that we've had a chance to work on together, and it's her first book with Woolsack and Wynn and Buckrider Books. And working on this book was such a thrill because I'm a great admirer of fashion, and I have a great interest in fashion history, and Marguerite and I got to share our shared interest in fashion while working on this book. And in particular, like one thing came up was our absolute love of the work of Alexander McQueen, and such a thrill to be able to not only work on a wonderful long poem like The Endless Garment with a talented writer, but to also have the opportunity to share a common interest with a like-minded colleague. And so as I said, this is a long poem. In fact, it is called a pocket epic in 5 collections. So there are 5 sections to the book that mirror the seasons in a fashion designer's annual collection, and this provides the structure for the book, which is a thoughtful and I would say a celebratory meditation on the importance of clothes as a functional object and as an art form. And that is The Endless Garment. And I will turn the camera over to Marguerite Pigeon, who will tell you more about this book and let you hear some of it. So Marguerite.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks also to Noelle and to Ashley. Thanks to everybody at Wellsack and Wynn and Buckrider. I'm so happy to have this book come out with your beautiful press. Thank you. My book is about fashion and clothes in the broadest sense as social communication and self-fashioning, method of self-fashioning. My narrator, it's a very narrative poem, and this narrator takes us on a journey, invites the reader to come with her across space and time as she very, very greedily seeks clothes at the beginning, and then in many epics is transformed by her journey into maybe something I hope a little more reflective. Just want to acknowledge I'm here on the West Coast, and this is a different land with different settling people and original people, the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people. So I'm here on that land. And I'm going to read from the sections, just so you just need to know that the narrator has gone on a big journey, has gone to a department store, has learned a lot about how department stores function and the history of them, and finds herself in the basement of the department store, which is a kind of hell. And she has a guide there, and that is Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the 19th century poet who wrote a wonderful epic about how women make themselves up in the world. And the only other thing you need to know is that one of the workers in the factory is named Phoebe. Those are her initials. As Elizabeth scribbles, the workers create button-down shirts, jeans, A-line skirts, embellished shorts, cowl-necked blouses, slacks, sequined tanks, jersey jumpsuits, hoodies, scooped-necked tees, gauzy nightgowns, wool blend blazers, lycra leggings, pink things, children's things, somber things, trendy things, pricey things, celebratory things, sturdy things, flimsy things, a mix we cried out for as shoppers, dizzying now. Past a narrow enclosure, women and men work together in an open yard, combing out long strands of human hair to package for resale. They sweat before a fire used to seal the ends before hanging locks to dry, while to another side, among rows of chemicals in bins, boys of 13 stir raw hides, others stretching the leathers to dry, bare skin, bare fingers in contact with poison. Disregard for conditions and time, interspersed by rides on company minibuses, city sprawl of San Pedro Sula, Guangzhou, Dhaka, Kuala Lumpur, urban intensity glimpsed through plexiglass, shifts punctuated by sleep in company dorms, migrants, locals, pregnant women, married women, single women, nearsighted women, devout men and women, girl children, boy children, preparing food, cleaning plates at a tap, in prayer, texts tapped out and WhatsApped home, shared stories, poor sleep, hopeful thoughts, organizing meetings, demands for better conditions, moments in solidarity. Inside jokes, then back to the escalator, ribbon up, fob into the work floor where I stand with Elizabeth, observing, only observing. Oh, place of weak light. Oh, asses in seats, controlled exits. Oh, nights and days authorized by whim. Oh, deft hands, these hours have no give. These fingers crack. These people's poetry is unread. I run here and there, bang the door with a buzz, it opens, but it's Elizabeth's face on the guard's bulky body. I stumble back, fall, scramble away as Elizabeth yells after me, patience, you will have everything you want. A way out is near. Out, how soon? These stagnant hours, pooled, putrid waters, fed by sweat, promise never to end. Until suddenly a strange sound, a snap from above, everyone unnerved. Bibi on her feet, she pulls up her mask, yells at those nearby to run. The hypnotized guard, clinging to duty, orders Bibi's head down, hands to task, while around us, sewing needles, oblivious, keep a hum, steel going down, up, drones in love with their patterns. Elizabeth turns my way. You will see. Bibi defies the guard, rises and pulls others up, screaming, get out. A series of colossal groans, sewing pieces slipping everywhere, collars, side panels, mesh inserts in pea green, midnight black, sky blue, scattering on the ground. Upper floors, held aloft till now by garment orders, the wallets of shoppers, praise of novelty, the need for jobs, suddenly find the gravity of a bench judge whose mallet always falls with purpose. Smash, verdict on everything below. Not enough doors. On the windows, heavy bars. Workers yanking anyway, wild gestures, silent film actors awaiting the yield of props, the director to yell, cut. The department store crashes down on the factory floor, women, children, men, now ingredients, forcibly swirled into rising beige debris. Down come fur coats, down come cash drawers, down come blasting hand dryers, down comes a rain of perfume bottles, down come tube socks, stretched or rolled into cotton question marks. Down come the people, clerks, sales managers, retirees, still clutching teacups from the store cafe, come booties, come men's shirts, come gloves like waving hands, come mannequin arms and legs. Workers, including Bibi, alive in pockets of dwindling air, dial cell phones out, reach loved ones in sane places, restaurants, markets. Factory voices choke out, save, help, love. Great stacks of garment parts howl through forked tongues of uncut zippers. Sewing machine needles leap like hornets to stab, sew to walls, embroider with doom, attempts at escape, every single one, except ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marguerite. That was wonderful. Once again, Marguerite was reading from The Endless Garment. And if you would like to buy a copy of this book, I encourage it. And you can visit the Woolsack and Win website to buy all 4 four of our titles that we're celebrating tonight. All the Buckrider titles are 30% off if you order them on the Woolsack and Win website until this Sunday, November 28th. And with that 30% discount, which will be applied automatically in your cart on the website, if you buy all four books, that means you're getting one of the books for free, because it'll be a total savings of $22.80. And certainly it's our incentive for these virtual launches, since we can't be there in person with a book table and make you feel guilty for not leaving the room without buying a book. You know, there's that sort of social pressure to do that, and we don't have that. So instead of negative reinforcement, we have positive reinforcement. And so we have this wonderful discount right on our website, woolsackandwin.ca, and all four of our Buckrider books are 30% off if you order them on the website by this Sunday. And thanks again to Marguerite Pigeon. And I would like to turn our attention to our next author, who is Michelle Barry, who is launching Everything Turns Away, her new novel, tonight. Now, I can scarcely remember a time in my professional life, or even a time as an avid reader, when I didn't know the name Michelle Barry. It's because when we started talking about what makes a really good short story in the writing clubs that I belong to and creative writing classes, one of the people we talked about in those spaces was Michelle Barry, who in the late 90s was publishing books like Margaret Lives in the Basement and You Can't Get There From Here, and how excited we were to read these books. And then I got to know Michelle, and it was like she wasn't that far along in her career, but just enough that it was like meeting like a really cool older sister who could show you the ropes. And I've been following Michelle's career with great enthusiasm and admiration for so long. And a few years back now, we finally got the chance to work together at Woolsack and Win when we published Michelle's previous novel, The Prisoner and the Chaplain, which has been doing so well and getting great reviews, and people just seem to love it. And we're so thrilled to have Michelle back with a new novel, Everything Turns Away, with us at Woolsack and Win. And this novel has it all. There's murders, there's disappearances, mysteries, but is it a murder mystery? Is it a thriller? It's all of those things. And it's a literary novel with nuance and such richly drawn characters, and not necessarily people that you're going to like, but people that you really like reading about. And it all takes place in the confusion and horror and really strange social shared experience of the 9/11 terror attacks, and how that forms a backdrop, this very surreal, very strange backdrop against which all these sort of these people's personal lives unfold, and how it's all just a little bit familiar because we all lived through that, and so we relate to these people on a way, because built into the novel there's this shared experience that we all have, and it connects us to these characters in a way that it is brilliant and difficult to pull off in fiction at the best of times. And Michelle Barry makes it look so easy, and she's going to show you how she did it, and you're still going to scratch your head wondering how she pulled it off. And here's Michelle Barry with Everything Turns Away.
Oh, thank you, Paul. I would much prefer listening to you for the next 10 minutes instead of me. That was lovely. I want to start by thanking Noelle and Paul and all of Woolsack and Win, all the whole crew there. My two books there have been a wonderful experience. You are all so kind. Poor Noelle gets emails from me every day. Everybody gets back to me right away. I've loved being with your press. Thank you. Okay, brief setup of my reading. The book starts with a dinner party in Toronto the evening before 9/11, as Paul said. The hosts, Paul and Sophie, argue as they clean up the dishes, and their guests, Alan and Helen, walk home, but they decide to stop at a bar for one more drink. And then Alan suddenly realizes that he left his car at Paul and Sophie's. He's been too drunk to realize that he left his car, and he shouldn't be driving it, but he wants to go back. He wants to double back to get his car. His wife, Helen, is very mad, and she walks home alone. In this short reading, Paul has just mistakenly taken a sip of a lit candle, thinking it was his wine. And Sophie has gone upstairs to sleep. And Alan, after coming back for his car, he's drunkenly spying on Paul and Sophie's house, and he accidentally sets off the motion detector light in the backyard. Okay, chapter 11. Oh God, his mouth is burning. Paul swallowed some of the wax. He actually swallowed it, and it hardened in his throat on the way down. What if it thickens up quickly and chokes him? Paul struggles to pull the wax out of his mouth. Good thing his mouth is warm, as the wax seems to be staying in a fairly liquid form. But there is the wax in the stomach. The burning sensation on his tongue, like drinking hot coffee or burning his mouth on soup, is excruciating. Hot coffee or soup he can spit out, but this is wax. It sticks there. Paul rushes into the kitchen and digs into the freezer for ice cubes. But then he doesn't want to suck on ice because it will harden the wax. Fit, he says, fit, fit, fit. Scraping his tongue with his fingernails, with a bread knife, picking at his teeth. Fit. He is peeling hot wax out of his mouth, off his tongue, crying slightly from the pain of the burn when he sees the backyard light go on. His entire backyard is lit up. He thinks raccoons, but can still hear them at the side of the house in his garbage can. There's a fucking flock of them, he thinks, and then wonders what a grouping of raccoons is called. A pack? They are like wolves or hyenas, scavengers. Paul wouldn't put it past a raccoon to drag a small body off into the park and eat it slowly from the belly up. His tongue aches. The sides of his mouth are burned. He doesn't know whether he is peeling off skin or wax. His eyes water even more. His nose runs. The ice cube melts in his hand. His wife is upstairs, probably passed out on the bed, probably dressed in those huge PJs that make her look like a small child. Those PJs that are impossible to get off her. Too many buttons. Not that he feels like doing anything anymore. His whole head is on fire from the wax. Paul remembers that he has spilt some of the wax on the coffee table too when he spit it out of his mouth and missed his wine glass. He should clean that up. The light stays on in the backyard. Paul moves towards the back door, but then he sees something from the front window and turns and walks towards the front of the house. A man with a dog is out front. He's taking a crap on his sidewalk. Not the man, the dog. Paul wants to knock on the window, but the man looks anxious and bothered. Maybe he doesn't have a bag. And he can imagine, with his luck, the man charging up into his house and sicking his dog on everyone inside. Dogs will definitely drag a baby into a park and eat them. Paul has never liked dogs. They smell, they drool, they always jump up on him and often pee on his feet, just a little dribble. Like they are marking him, letting him know who is alpha dog. Fuck, Paul says, but it comes out waxy, like fuck. The man out front doesn't notice Paul watching. He is looking across the street towards Sheila's house. Single mom. Her husband left her for his secretary. Sheila told Paul one day that she wouldn't have minded so much except that it was such a stereotype. She hated that her husband reduced her to a stereotype. Can you imagine? The things you worry about. Paul thinks they probably weren't happy together anyway. Who is? Alan and Helen? Not likely. He and Sophie? Paul moves again towards the back. He passes by the side window. These damn Toronto houses are so slim, he thinks. You can walk a straight line and see everything laid out before you like a tunnel. You can touch both walls on either side of the house. You can touch your neighbors' houses. Open your arms wide enough, Paul thinks, and you can lift your house off the foundation. He sees the raccoons digging through his garbage cans, open and knocked over. One raccoon has a chicken bone in its mouth. I hope you toke, Paul says, still peeling the wax and occasionally spitting into the handkerchief he has found in his pocket. There is a baby raccoon rummaging through the bag of baby diapers. Good God, Paul thinks, imagining the mess in the morning. He hopes beyond hope that the raccoons will just eat everything up and he won't have to deal with it. He realizes, though, that he'll be hungover on a Tuesday and perhaps spitting blood from the wounds in his mouth as he tidies up shitty diapers, dog crap, too, out front probably, and chicken bones. The thought makes him suddenly very nauseous. What are you doing? Sophie is standing on her nightgown, in her nightgown on the stairs. She is whispering to him, but it sounds more like an angry hiss. The raccoons, he says, pointing towards the side window. What's wrong with your mouth? Sophie peers down at him. The windows are under the stairs, and so she can't see the millions of raccoons foaming at the mouth out there. I burned it. I can't understand a word you're saying, and don't shout, you'll wake the baby. Sophie starts to walk back upstairs. She turns. Are you coming to bed? And Paul sighs. He turns off the living room light. He glances once more at the motion light in the backyard, lighting up his porch, the shrubs, the bird feeder, but decides it's the raccoons that have set it off, and heads up the stairs behind Sophie, thinking that maybe her nightgown is a sign. Maybe her nightgown means sex. It's surely easier to take off than those damn PJs. But Paul doesn't feel like sex. He just wants to go to sleep. Chapter 12. Alan stands completely still in Paul and Sophie's lit up backyard. A raccoon is circling his feet, smelling him. He's completely forgotten about seeing Sophie naked. Away, he growls, he kicks. The raccoon hisses. Alan wonders if rabies shots are part of the regular immunizations. He's not sure. He wonders if his kid has had a rabies shot. She gets her immunizations all the time, it seems. Seems every time he has something important to do at work, he's taking her to the doctor for a shot. Hours in the waiting room with kids climbing all over him and the chairs, and then holding Catherine down while a doctor shoots her up and makes her cry. Pacing all night, terrified that deadly fever will strike her down. Helen always seems to be teaching when they've booked the doctor's appointments. Funny that. Alan thinks again, like he always does, about the fact that she went right back to work, right back to teaching, refused to take maternity leave. She worked until the end of May and then had the baby, and then hired the nanny and took the summer off, researching and reading and getting her implants. But then she went right back to teaching at the beginning of September. Helen said that since she couldn't breastfeed, she might as well go back to work. She blames everything on her failure to breastfeed, but Alan knows that Helen knows that their Filipina nanny actually does a better job raising their child than she does. Grace is kind and attentive. Grace is like Helen is with her students, listening to their problems, helping them through learning issues. Women today, Alan thinks, complain about staying home with the kid. Look at Sophie. But maybe if they were paid for it, given a salary and benefits. And then again, it's not as if Grace is ecstatic to be a nanny. Alan remembers she has her own kids back in the Philippines, whom she never sees. That can't be fun. He's aware of the irony, Helen is too, that Grace spends her days taking care of Catherine while someone else back home raises her own daughter. He kicks again at the raccoon. The world is fucked, Alan thinks. The raccoon ambles off across the grass towards the other side of the house. Great, he's surrounded on all sides by raccoons. He wonders if he can climb the fence to the neighbor behind Sophie and Paul's, sneak out the side of their house and then circle around and come back to get his car. Alan wonders if Helen has ever bonded with their child. Isn't that what women are supposed to do? Take time off work and bond with their kids? Alan moves towards the fence. He steps in something wet and sticky. Dog shit? Raccoon shit? One leg up, Alan pulls himself over the fence and falls into the neighbor's backyard. He is drunker than he thought he was, and so he lands loosely and doesn't hurt himself. But what is it that he has landed in? He smells something horrible coming up from below him. Then he realizes that he is about 3 feet off the ground, that he is lying on something incredibly soft and warm. An animal? Compost. He's landed on the neighbor's compost pile. The light in Sophie and Paul's backyard goes off. Click. Alan wants to jump off the pile, but he's frozen to the spot. The filth of it, the disgusting smell, the eggshells crunching below his arms. His hands feel something like coffee grinds. He gags. He can feel dry chicken and sticky rice coming up his throat, but he swallows quickly and breathes through his mouth. How will he get back to his car like this? Covered. How? He'll have to leave the car there and walk home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Once again, reading from Everything Turns Away. Once again, all our books are 30% off on the Woolsack and Win website until this Sunday. And we're gonna switch again from fiction back to poetry as we welcome Adrienne de Leon to our camera. And tonight we are launching Barangay, an offshore poem, and couldn't be more pleased to present this poetry collection to everyone. I first became aware of Adrian's writing when he published his first book, Rouge, with Moenzi House a few short years ago. And we're very lucky at Woolsack & Win to be bringing you his next book. Barangay is a poem of place and time. It is a meditation on the Filipino diaspora, but it's more than that. It's the kind of book that invites a reader into a larger world, and it's deeply felt. It's deeply clever. It's crafted beautifully, and it's the kind of book of poems that I think will rarely find its way back on the shelf because you'll be reaching for it all the time. And I'd like to now turn things over to Adrian, who can tell you more about the book and read some of his beautiful poetry to you. And so, Adrian.
We start with An American Delusion on page 14. When America frees you from Soleimani, you Saigon people who scurry from your boondocks will welcome the liberators of Guam from the Spanish clutches around your Caribbean island. Rest easy, little brown brothers, for America is here to frack every gook rallying from the sand against First Secretary Hussein, no comrade of yours. You will shout freedom from camp towns built to protect you from the supreme leader of North San Salvador, keeping you stale so that you can gather bananas and maintain our America abroad so that one day you can unearth each of your fingers to frack that liquid black gift of freedom. Thank you so much, not just for having me, but for taking this piece. And I don't know if my editor, Candicia Lubrin, is here, but my first thanks to her, and to Paul, and to Noel, to Ashley, to the designers, to the literary community, to my friends who are now popping off in the chat, which is lit. Sup, y'all? I got like the homies books at the back too. Check them out too. Barangay Offshore Poem is a book that should not exist. And it should not exist because I wrote it in the wake of multiple deaths in my life that seemed to happen one after the other, starting with my grandmother's siblings. And for anyone who knows, Filipino kinship, it's broader than just a nuclear family. It's capacious, it's moving, it's mobile, it's oceanic, it's liminal, it's riverine, it's brackish. And that's part of where this book comes from. And I really wanted to think about the ways that we can take boat building projects, the decolonial boat building that we do in the Pacific, into other contexts like the transatlantic, like settler colonialism, like enslavement, like diasporas, like imperialism, like capitalism. And before I start with some of my pieces, I want to shout out the person reading next, who was my first poetry teacher, Daniel Scott Tisdale. He can say more about how horrible of a student I was, but I wrote Rouge as my honors thesis with him way back when, in like 2013, 2014. Love you, fam. There you go. So what I'm gonna read for y'all, yeah, it's a little bit of a full circle because we get to launch right now. We kind of like, when we both realized we were both with Buckrider, we were like, oh my God, we get to launch and like be in the same room, but we can't. I'm actually in Vegas. So that's where I'm coming to y'all from. I'm gonna read a couple of sets of pieces. The first one is a series of 4 called Ilog, and Ilog means river in Tagalog. Ilog, isa, a circumcision. At bedtime, my father liked to trace the rush of the Tenejero River into my homeland dreams. I crouched on the shore and watched the leeches lurch the gnawing soil afoot from my not yet calloused toes. Upstream, boys bawled at the quack doctor's cleaver before he shoved guava leaves into their mouths. Magmuya ka, chew until mush. Dumurat ka sa titi mo. The Rouge River has no shamans, not anymore. just urologists, or whom to play up your pain. Binata ka na, di ka na supot. The boy becomes a man between my legs and asks if adulthood had to hurt. And I spit these leaves at the rawness of an unhooded penis. Dalawa. Before the return, my parents lighted us away to another river. The asphyxiated sun browned this skin as the Pasig against the ruined stilts of Riverside Barangay. I dreamed the bubbling waters, the shanty towns into the fjords that lead to Tarusak. Perhaps I'd finally find the strong, winding arms in Bataan, the Tenejero. This place could not be home until I plunged my waist at the depths. The leeches I'd name across the ocean, pierced into my flesh to bleed me better from the bruise. Tatlo, the Tenejero, at Tatay's leech-filled waters, loved me in the night, groveled through the tar, the bank's revenants shrieking below the overpass, without the releases of meeting its mother sea. Apat, vigil. How do we remember our river buried? I think I have a couple more for you. This one was written in April 2020 for my niece, Leanne. Newborn poem with gasping earth. When you come to, do you reach from the static like cable news? Do you glow the church before the dusk blues the empty pews? Or do you wick in the breeze of a last breath? Will your toes trace a wake across my palms, their creases charting nebulae into our beyond? Two more. This one is written for my aunties and uncles on the Salish Sea. In the Salish Sea, our clock flickers from the wake. When the blaze breaks the lavender, we call the embers morning. A wrestle between desperate ray and relentless cloud, we name their romp the afternoon. If amber blinds the retina, we bid goodnight to the sun. If ice seems to shimmer in waves as above, we greet the night. The stern germinates into the earth, branching timelines like cedars evergreening into the shore. Can we burn the water's waxy leaves into necessary medicine? Will we breathe its smoke until our memory scars over, or will this, our time, be denied from us until the shoal beds the dead into the grains of an hourglass? I've lost one. This one's called Kundi-Man, which is a sort of love song. Philippine love song. This is written for one of my best friends, Patrick, who is from Scarborough Jason. He's west of Victoria Park, so debatable. But we claim him, and he moved to Manila. Dugang, at Victoria Park, I watched you erupt above the surface, hardening into an island. In Honolulu, you found Savai'i and the Nihon you never thought you'd hear from beyond the dead. When the seabed grabbed your ankles, you let it wash you west. You'd fall in love with Edsa, the slow gray currents that carry the city around like river sludge. Or you'd meet our mother mountain, once a perfect cone, the smoking pencil scribbling native tales into the sky. Dugang, when you see this poem, maybe Manila's screeching steel could by instinct fill your lungs with midland air. Or maybe you might rustle in the fallen malunggay, make believing the oak and birch of home, though incomplete like love. Thank you. Check out all the books, I guess, with Buckrider, and looking forward to the conversation. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Adrian. That was awesome. Just a powerful reading. Your poems are are so beautiful and so powerful. That was wonderful. And if you agree with me out there in our audience, then Barangay is a book you should buy and read and give to people as a Christmas present and stocking stuffer. And there are so many reasons to buy this book. And if you go to Woolsack and Wind's website and buy it there, before and up until this Sunday, November 28th, you'll get a 30% discount. And once again, we're going to shift gears from poetry back to fiction. And like Adrian was saying, our final author for the night is Daniel Scott Tisdale. Again, a writer I have admired for many years, and mostly for his poetry. And it's such a thrill to introduce you all tonight to Daniel's fiction, because Waveforms and Doom Scrolls is his debut collection of short stories. And Daniel does things with short stories that I've never seen anyone else do before, quite literally. And it's exciting to see a writer bring new techniques and new ways of storytelling to the art form. And that's something that Daniel Scott Tisdale has done. And he's done it in poetry, and now he's doing it in fiction. And obviously, it's one of the things that makes him a writer that people love to read, a performer who people love to watch, and a teacher who inspires students like Adrienne de Leon, who we've just seen do marvelous things. And Daniel is a generous artist. And I say that as a character trait of him as a person, and as a trait of his writing. It's generous writing that invites the reader to come and read and enjoy. And I think that's what you're going to find in Waveforms and Doom Scrolls. And Daniel will show you how it's done. Daniel.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Paul. I just got to respond to Taya's in the chat here. Taya, imagine being my student and knowing I'm obsessed with all of you, right? It goes both ways. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and thank you and congratulations to my brilliant co-launchers, incredible readings. Thank you as well to Noelle, Paul, Ashley, Jennifer, and the whole Woolsack and Wind Buckrider Books family for helping me create this book and for making the process so rewarding and inspiring. If someone had told me one day you were going to launch a book online while alone at a lake, I would have said, damn, that sucks. And yet here I am, filled with joy and gratitude for this incredible opportunity, this beautiful night, and all the amazing love and support I've received from family and friends. One of the things that makes tonight extra special, Ryan, I didn't even make it to this reading, is having the pleasure to co-launch with Adrienne de Leon, a brilliant thinker, original creator, gifted teacher, karaoke icon, and generous human being, who I had the joy of sharing a classroom with at UTSC for a number of years. I'm going to read two excerpts tonight, and I would like to dedicate this first one, Humanities Wing, to Adrienne and all the amazing writers and students I have the honor to work with at UTSC. So much love for all of you. Humanities Wing is a multi-character story, but I've pieced together a thread that focuses on three characters. I will supplement my reading by sharing some of the footage from my short film adaptation of this story. This piece comes with a pair of warnings. First, the footage includes a few moments of flickering light, so if that is going to cause discomfort or health issues, please do dim your screen. And second, he who will not be named and his monstrous border wall loom throughout this piece. Standing outside the Humanities Wing at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, the business major doesn't have it in her to finish her essay on the building's construction. She needs to take photos instead. It's the only act that can slow her collapse under the news from 3,000 kilometers southwest. Later that day, in Otay Mesa, California, journalists are scheduled to snap their first official photos of the prototype border walls she never believed would be real. Beyond the humanities wing, on the other side of campus, a future student visiting for the first time is lost. She thinks the too cute not to talk to boys smoking a hookah at a picnic table must be teasing when they tell her she will find the creative writing prof in humanities wing. She tries to picture humanities wing, like a bird's, a plane's, and insects, and angels, and then imagines how she would find the prof she's looking for inside it. She pulls out her notebook and starts a poem. As the future student's imagination soars, the business major feels her own creative foundation waver. Even as she explores the humanities wing northeast stairwell, her favorite place to shoot. All the fascinating details she learned about the humanities wing while researching her essay. The architectural term brutalism, the building's multi-page spread in Life magazine, the fact that when it opened in 1965, it was the largest concrete building in the world, feel vandalized now, demolished, as though wrecked and repurposed by the prototype walls, by their brutalism, their spread against life, their record-breaking scale, stretching all the way from California to the tightening base of her aching lungs. The future student, no longer puzzled, enters the humanities wing. She's an hour late, but the professor, too preoccupied to notice, welcomes her into his office. The news of the walls took him out at the knees. He has wasted the day reading article after article about the future of the prototypes. The spin the bitters spun slapped him to the dirt. Skull stomp after skull stomp was how it felt. His inability to comprehend, combined with his inability to stop searching for more. The future student admits she's late because she was inspired after misunderstanding the building's name, Humanities Wing, Possessive. She pulls out her notebook and shares the poem her mishearing prompted. It's a mess, but in her mess, the professor finds effort and newness and promise. He is moved to offer a few sincere words of advice and share his own Humanities Wing related flight of fancy. Returning from the mailroom, he sometimes stops to imagine frames around different sections of his building's walls to uncover sublime paintings, an Arctic landscape captured on a moonless night, an earnest abstract, a close-up rendering of an elephant's skin, the surface concealing that massive beating heart. After leaving the professor's office, the future student pulls out her notebook. She takes in the wall the way the professor suggested. A form flashes down the hall, catching her eye. It's the business major, taking pictures of the wall, taking picture after picture after picture after picture. The future student watches her frame and snap, frame and snap. She reaches for her pen. On his way to the bus stop, the creative writing professor looks back at his building and in turn glimpses what the future student showed him. He sees it. What he needs to know could be real. Humanities Wing, a home for all we build when keen to be our most probing and loving and honest and open selves. A wing that lifts us. Or has our walls and our wars and our hate and our failings blaze, a wing to escape us, to a light beyond our reach and wait for a better people, for beings who are worthy of becoming what we imagined we could become. The good thing about reading along with the video is I just have to keep reading through. I can't start crying. It's a good tear pause there. I like that. So I'll finish by reading an excerpt from Waveform. While Humanities Wing is a short story I adapted into a short film, Waveform is a short film I adapted into a short story. I'm very grateful to Noelle to have had the chance to undertake this unique and rewarding process and include the film images in the book. And they just look incredible, beyond anything I ever imagined. This piece comes with a content warning for reflections on depression and suicidal ideation. I want to dedicate this one to all who create, who are sustained by making and support this work. I want to dedicate it to the love of my life, best friend, and ceramic superstar, Andrea Carice, and to our families. Thank you for sharing and inspiring such love. That one we've seen. Here we go. This is a waveform. This is a waveform of a video editing tutorial about waveforms. The instructor shows us how this type of waveform measures the luma of a moving image, what some might call its brightness or luminescence. These are different waveforms of the footage I filmed of my friend, barely visible beneath the waving trees of the park. This is a waveform of him telling me how, when his luminescence vanishes, he paces aching through this park, the waves of depression dragging him under. These are different waveforms of the footage I shot from a subway platform, my friend waving to me as his train pulls in. He admits that when his brightness dwindles, he can't look down at the tracks without his sickness in him sneering, "Do it, jump, die." He can't stop his mind from welcoming inside all the ways he could end his life. This is a waveform of the end of a movie that saved his life. It's Fellini's La Dolce Vita. The girl waves across a chasm to the failed hero, her message made indecipherable by the ocean's crashing surf. These are the waveforms of other cinematic waves that have helped my friend survive from boyhood to today. The waves of burly hawkmen saving the day in Flash Gordon, and the tides of waste salvaged in Varda's The Gleaners and I. The gentle wake that trails the fin and jaws, and the joyous surge of a teacher's embrace as Lale goes free in a Groovin's Mustang. Here is the whirlpooling of process and audience in Man with the Movie Camera, the wave-shaped chalk that marks the murderer in M, the surfacing of inner selves through angels and wings of desire, and the swimming lesson in Moonlight offered in the middle of the world. This is a waveform of my friend in close-up, working on this film. Making this film is his way of waving to you, of waiting for you to wave back. This is a waveform of him saying, it's okay if you don't wave back, or never even see this to know he's waiting. This movie is a measure of his luminescence, a brightening of his glow. Making it for you crests him above the urge to end all the waves that remain in him to rise. This is a waveform of my friend waving to you through the downpour, waiting for you in the tumult, holding the shape of a shore, keeping the boat steady until we survive.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was beautiful. Once again, Daniel is reading from his new short story collection, Waveforms and Doom Scrolls. And as I promised, doing it in ways you've never seen before. I want to thank all of our readers tonight, starting with Marguerite Pigeon, author of The Endless Garment, a book that reminds us that we're much more than the clothes that we wear, but also how clothes as self-expression, as social construct, are much more meaningful than we often think about in our day-to-day lives. I want to thank Michelle Barry, whose novel everything turns away reminds us why she's one of the very best practitioners of the novel in this country, and who makes us fascinated to follow the adventures of people who we probably wouldn't want to have dinner with, and and reminds us of the trauma of shared experiences and the strangeness of the everyday in beautiful prose, in winning, charismatic scenery. And we want to thank her. I want to thank Adrienne de Leon, whose book Barangay, an offshore poem, reminds us of how our lives are connected to other people through space, through time, through geography, and as we've seen from his readings tonight, these are powerful poems, and about a deeply felt connection to humanity and to one another, and especially to Scarborough. And I want to thank Daniel Scott Tisdale once again for his powerful reading from Waveforms and Doom Scrolls. I want to thank my colleagues at Woolsack and Wynn, Noelle Allen, our publisher, Ashley Hisson, our managing editor, and Jen Rollinson, our production coordinator, who has been pulling the levers of this virtual event all night and making sure that things go smoothly. Thank you so much to everyone at Woolsack and Wynn. And lastly, thank you to the 100+ attendees who have joined us tonight to listen to Marguerite and Michelle and Adrienne and Daniel. And you're the reason we do this. You're the reason why we look for the most talented authors we can and bring you the best books we can publish, because you love reading and you love stories and you love the sound of words. And thank you for being here. And don't forget, these books are all 30% off if you buy them from woolsackandwin.ca by this Sunday. And with that, with gratitude on all sides of the camera, I'll say good night, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.